My dog went missing for 16 days and it opened up a spiritual portal. My mother and sister wounds were transformed, my relationship jumped timelines, and I unlocked a new spiritual gift. I am going to tell you the whole story, unfiltered, but you probably honestly won't believe me, and that's okay, because this is also me beginning to experiment more with telling my full truth without shrinking or worrying what people are going to think out of fear. Like, this is me, and this is the evolution I'm stepping into, and I welcome you if you're here for it. I have been in the business coaching world for over 10 years, focused mostly on helping women entrepreneurs unlock their next level identity, email marketing, social media, lots of business strategy. And in the last couple of years, I've stepped more into identity work and the energetics. But the last 9 months, I have been in the deepest of deep spiritual awakenings. This isn't my first, but it's definitely like the next level or a deeper level to it. But what's unfolded in those last 9 months, I feel like I've only really shared a surface level with most of you. And that's because I really am just learning discernment on what's sacred to me and what is to be shared right now. But I really feel like this story, I'm really feeling the pull to share it as a way to start to experiment with finding that balance between what's sacred and what is to be shared, because I do honestly feel like this is a part of my soul purpose and gifts are to share my journey of evolution with you, to inspire you to go deeper and to inspire you to evolve and change and be okay with that. But I want to go back and just give you some context of the last 9 months, because they have been wild and it'll help make this story make more sense. It really began in November at my first plant medicine ceremony. The reason I think this first plant medicine ceremony was so transformational for me was obviously the women who were there and supported me through it, but also the plant medicine for me was crucial, I think, because one of my biggest life lessons, I know this just out of things I've been through, but also like in my human design and in my gene keys, is surrender and the fear of surrender and trying to control things, which I think a lot of women in general can relate to that. But for me, surrender is like one of those things that like, I just feel like I'm always chasing and always trying to grasp and I can't quite seem to, which is like continuing the cycle of not surrendering, right? I'm like overthinking how to surrender. So I think the plant medicine at the ceremony really helped me physically surrender. And it opened up my brain, my crown chakra, my third eye, whatever you want to call it. It really opened me up to more from my higher self, my spirit team, my spirit council, and it just was the beginning of everything unfolding for me. And it was in that ceremony that I really discovered some deeper wounds that were wanting to be seen and healed. And a lot of it was around my childhood, family stuff. The mother line came up huge. And I won't go too deep into that stuff now out of the discernment of what I'm sharing. But I will just say, like, I've been, doing inner work, doing mindset work for probably my entire adult life. However, this was all stuff that was like the energetics underneath everything. It was like I finally was given the key to see what was actually going on and how I could begin to even look at it or even begin to become aware of it and heal it. So that in itself was life-changing. But then when I got home from that ceremony, my spiritual gifts also started to come online like crazy, like I had never before. Now, I've always been intuitive. I've always been an energy reader. Ever since I was a child, I would be able to feel other people's energies. It would really affect me. An empath is what I always identified as. And I've always been a channeler. Like, looking back now, all of my business coaching sessions, I was channeling. Like, I would know things about people's businesses or what they should do that it doesn't really make sense how I knew it, but I just knew it. And the strategies would work because I was channeling from some greater divine source. So I've always kind of had, these awareness of these spiritual gifts, but I never knew how to fully harness them or surrender to them. But this, when I came back from the ceremony, was different. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Like, I was just so tapped in with my spirit team and my higher self. A good example of this is like objects, specifically flowers or plants, started to kind of like communicate with me or talk to me. This is more like a claircognizant way. Claircognizant means like you just know. That's kind of, I think, one of my stronger clairs. And so, for example, after the ceremony, I had some red roses, and the red roses were telling me that they wanted to be half on my side of the bed and half on Jeff's side, of my fiance's side of the bed, so that they could transmute some energy for us. And then after they had, had died, they wanted me to put them into our fairy garden to be alchemized and to transmute that energy. Now, that is not something I ever would have thought, known to do before this. So that's just an example of things that were coming up. Started to feel like energy work being done on me at night. I started to be able to feel energies kind of like watching over me or being in the room. I did have really lucid dreams that I could tell were my higher self or my spirit team communicating different lessons and things to me. I had never had so many dreams every single night in my life. Channel was just open. Like, I was beginning to channel things for myself and for others that had nothing to do with business anymore. Like, I was seeing into their relationships or, their past kind of like triggers, and things were coming up that I had never known before. And there's no other way for me to explain it easily to you besides that everything was heightened, and I just knew that I was stepping into something deeper spiritually. So my friend Casey, dear soul sister, was beginning to launch a new Reiki training program. This was energy healing, energy work. If you're not sure what Reiki is, using the Reiki life force energy. I'm just a vessel for the divine with your spirit team when I'm in a session with you, or the goddesses, or whoever is coming through to work with you. And I just help move energy, release energy, or infuse energy, and it's all done in Christ light. It's 8 months long, and I just knew when I saw her talk about it that there was something in it for me, and that it was going to help me kind of open my channel even more, help me to understand my gifts, help me to harness them. And there were several times, and this is where we're starting to get into the dog story now, that my team throughout my training, even though this wasn't part of the training, had me tap into my own Akashic records. If you're not sure what Akashic records are basically like all space and time records of past, present, future timelines, your past lives, your future lives, what you're at now, and you can tap into them to get knowledge and wisdom to help you along your journey. There was one day where my team said to me, "You're going to tap into your Akashic records today." And I was like, "Okay, what? How do I do that?" And they're like, you'll figure it out. And so I just laid down, I put some headphones on, my meditation music, and I just set the intention to tap into my Akashic records. And in my Akashic records, they took me specifically to a past life. In this past life, I saw myself in a big royal looking room, big canopy bed. There was a man to my right who was like a counsel or like a guide, and I was some form of, we'll just call it status or royalty, I'm not quite sure. And in the bed I was giving birth, and there were some women helping me, and I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, and as soon as she was birthed, they showed me her being taken away, and I started screaming and crying, and the man kind of like hugged me and held me and said, "This has to be done. This has to be done." And that's all they kind of showed me in this first Akashic Records trip. And I quickly kind of connected it to some PCOS, fertility, womb work stuff that I've kind of been having challenges with and working to heal for basically my entire adult life, of this somehow being connected to fertility and having a baby in this lifetime. And I don't remember how long, it was maybe a couple weeks later, when Jeff and I forget what was happening, but we were having we weren't quite clicking. And so I was kind of like asking my team about it, asking what I, kind of needed to look into or what I needed to do. And they told me I was going to tap back into my Akashic records. And specifically how Jeff and I's records connected. And so I was like, okay, and did the same thing. And this time when I tapped into the meditation, I saw 2 books sitting there instead of just mine. And they opened, the pages kind of combined, and I went into that spot where the pages were combined. And without setting any intention to, or even thinking this was going to happen, I was put right back into that lifetime that they showed me the first time around. Except this time they revealed a little bit more to me. And they showed me that Jeff was some sort of peasant in this lifetime, and him and I had fallen in love, and I was having a really hard time accepting him for who he really was, or accepting that we could be together when I was of this status and society was going to reject it, and how would it make us look? And I'm sure it was a lot more dramatic back then. And so I never accepted him for who he really was, but we fell in love, and it was our baby. And that, for whatever reason, was why the baby had to get taken away, is because it was not of societal acceptance. And Jeff was then exiled from the village or community or whatever it was, and he was forced to go live out in the forests on his own, and he had to live a life of solitude basically after that. And they really showed me, they connected in this life, why Jeff, my fiance, feels so connected to source when he is backpacking and in nature and hiking, and why he loves solitude. So now that is your context that leads into my dog running away for 16 days. It actually started at the retreat. That was the graduation of this Reiki program with Casey. We were in the mountains. It was about a week before I was going to go on our family 4th of July trip to Wisconsin to see our family at our lake house. And we're at this Reiki retreat, and we're doing breath work because Casey's a breathwork facilitator. And in this breathwork journey, I am shown a couple things. First, I am actually shown and taken to my lake house, and shown that this trip I was about to take in a week was going to be super transformational. And they showed me my sister coming, and they showed us healing some things together in terms of our sister wounds, which was funny because my sister normally does not come on this trip, and at this time I still did not know that she was going to come. It was actually a couple days after the retreat that she texted me and told me that she would be coming this year. So I had no idea she was even going to be there, but in my breathwork it was shown that my sister, and that there would be healing for my mother as well together. I was also shown going on our lake house property to the spot where my grandfather had a heart attack and passed. And all I saw on the journey was me going there, which, by the way, my grandpa is the spirit guide that came through for me in that first plant medicine journey, even though I've never felt very connected to my grandfather. I've always felt connected to my grandmother. In this meditation that we were just instructed that we were going to meet a divine masculine, and my grandfather has been with me ever since. I think it was time for me to get some divine masculine love in my life and to begin healing that relationship. So anyways, I was shown going to the spot with my grandfather where he had passed. And then lastly, there was this big part of the breath work where I had to keep going out into the water, into the lake, to be baptized. And then in the breath work, I was also shown, I was taken back to this same past life. Again, never set the intention. It just was always being brought back to my awareness. Except in this time, they showed me what happened in that lifetime if we would have chosen different. If I would have chosen Jeff fully. If I would have accepted his love fully. If I would have stopped worrying about the rules and what society was saying. If I would have accepted him fully, and then in, the bigger picture, accepted myself fully. And they showed me that in that lifetime, if we had chosen that Jeff would have broken into the room while I was giving birth. We would have went and found our baby and saved our baby together, and then we would have went off and found a new life and a new village together. And we would have chosen each other, and we would have been happy as a family. And in the breath work, it was just the most beautiful feeling of unconditional love I had ever felt, and maybe had never actually felt in my life until that point. I thought it was beautiful at the time. I thought it was a beautiful like metaphor for how in this lifetime now Jeff and I got to choose differently, and we got to choose to fully accept each other and fully accept each other's love and, you know, build our dream life from there. And so I was really excited about it because I was like, okay, great. Now I get to go kind of figure out how to make sure I'm doing that, right? However, now I'm realizing how connected in that breath work the lake house trip was to that making those new choices in this lifetime. Now I know if my spirit team would have showed me what was to happen at the lake house, I probably wouldn't have went, which is why I'm sure they did not show me this part. But we're on the trip. We're driving the 16 hours. I have my 2 dogs, Gus and Daphne, in the back. I remember recording an Instagram story and I was like, oh, I feel so much magic coming for this trip. I'm so excited. Now we're in Wisconsin. It was only our second night there, and we went out to dinner with my uncle and some cousins. And the dogs were at the lake house like we always leave them. And we were leaving dinner, and Jeff and I decided to stop at the grocery store on the way home to get a couple things, eggs, milk for the next day. And we were only going to be 10 minutes behind them. No big deal. And so when we got back to the lake house, my family let Daphne outside to go potty like they always do. There's never an issue with our dogs being off leash, or we've never, you know, they always have great recall. We've never had a fear or a worry about that. And so they let them out like they do every other time we're at the lake. This is now Daphne's 3rd year at the lake. And when they let her out, she got spooked and she ran. And our lake house is already deep into the woods. And so she ran up a hill straight into the woods and didn't come back. And my uncle called me. Jeff and I were driving home and he told us what happened. And I remember looking at Jeff and my heart dropped into my stomach because I knew something was not good. But I said at the time, I'm like, no worries, we're going to go home. We're going to call her. She's going to come back. It's totally fine. Like, let's get home. Let's find her. It was getting dark when we got home. We got out in the woods right away, calling her, looking for her, and nothing. And it got so dark that we knew there wasn't anything else. We had already been searching for hours. There wasn't anything else we could do until morning light. And I remember even then when we went to bed, and I say went to bed because we did not sleep that night, but I thought I knew, we'll get her in the morning. Like, no big deal. She's probably just hiding and then she'll come back. So we got up at, I think, 3:30 that morning. As soon as I saw a little bit of light, I woke up Jeff and said, okay, I see light. Let's go. We went out looking for her. And that was the beginning of 16 days of her on her own in the thick, deep woods of Wisconsin lake country. Luckily, there's a ton of water sources around, but there's also a lot of woods, a lot of farmland. I mean, everywhere when we were driving around, we were like, that would be a good place for her to hide. It was just a needle in a haystack. And I quickly began to settle into the idea that this was not going to be an easy journey. It was going to be long. And when I say 16 days, each day felt like a lifetime. Like, time was not linear. It did not exist. Like, it was lifetimes. And Daphne is the sweetest little angel baby. She is my energy reader. She has so much life and personality in her. Such a sweetie. And the thought of her alone for 16 days really hurts my heart. It didn't take long for me to connect the dots. And I remember I was just sitting there one day while we were kind of sitting looking, and it just dropped in like, oh my gosh, this is us making the right choice or reliving karmic correction, whatever you want to call it, of that past life. Like, our baby was gone. Our baby was taken from us. But instead of giving up or just letting it be done that way, Jeff and I were now on this journey together of finding our baby and bringing her back home. I mean, I can't make this shit up. And that's just the surface level of it, which I'm going to get a little bit deeper. But like, I quickly realized, like, oh, this is why I have been shown this. I get to choose. We get to choose different in this lifetime. And it was in that moment I did have complete faith that we would get her back, because I knew our souls, our spirits, like, just could not let it go any other way. I'm not going to say that faith didn't waver, but I did, from the beginning, I never thought we weren't going to get her back. But that didn't mean it was any less excruciating or painful or heartbreak. I would say probably the first 5 days, we were just in complete survival mode. We were out looking for Daphne in the car. I'm not exaggerating, like 10 hours a day. Jeff and I would split up. We would take breaks. My sister would go out with me, and just complete survival mode. I wasn't eating. I could not eat. Was not taking good care of myself. I was not getting any sleep. Jeff wasn't getting any sleep. And our bodies and our nervous systems were just in complete survival mode, which I think, looking back, like, any human would have done in that instance. And I don't regret any of it, because I needed to feel that. I needed to go through that to learn this bigger lesson. I needed to deplete my energy source. I needed to be like, this is not the right way to do this. But at the time, it was all I knew what to do, because I didn't know what else to do besides go and look for her. We were going and we were putting up road signs. We knocked on, I swear, everyone's doors in the 3 surrounding counties. Everybody knew about that missing dog. We were posting on Facebook. We were calling the police stations. We were calling shelters. Like, everyone in the community knew. However, Daphne is so freaking smart, and so energetically smart, that she was evading people like crazy. Like, we would go 6 days without any sightings. I just know in my heart she was just like living off the land and so freaking smart, and knew that she was on divine assignment. I truly believe she knew she couldn't come home until certain things happened, which we'll get into in a second. At some point on these first 5 days, I reach out to a beautiful soul named Amy. Now, of course, there's other friends that have helped me along the way that I reached out to that were so supportive, but really the catalyst was Amy, who, not coincidentally, obviously, as we know, a month before I went on this trip, she became a new client. She found me on YouTube, and she was reaching out about email marketing consulting and services. And as soon as I got on the call with her, I knew she was a dream client, because she is, one, just an amazing, beautiful soul, but 2, she's an animal communicator. So right down my spiritual alley, except she's able to speak with animals of all different kinds. And so I was like, oh my gosh, dream client. Was so excited to help her set up her messaging and her marketing. But now looking back, it is no coincidence that we met just a month before this happened. So 5 days in, at some point, I reach out to her and I ask if she can help me. And she says, of course. And actually at that time too, she was actually training a group of people who also wanted to learn how to communicate with animals. So she used Daphne and what I was going through with her group of trainees to connect with Daphne and to give me messages and things like that. And when I say this was the catalyst to everything, this woman is so amazing. I will put her information down below in the description. You can just book her for an hour to communicate with your pet, past or present. She's an amazing soul, so definitely check her out. She was the catalyst to everything, because not only was she telling me, things Daphne was like feeling, and like, certain like trees and houses and stuff that she was seeing, so we could kind of try to get an idea of where she was. She also told me that Daphne was trying to jump timelines. And basically that this was all divine, all destiny. This was fated to happen, kind of confirming what I already knew in terms of like the bigger transformational portal that this was. But she mentioned something specifically about timelines, and that Daphne was trying to jump to a new timeline before she could come back. And so I'm kind of like, okay, what does that mean? And then she gets even more clear, and she says, there are some things that you and Jeff need to talk about, because stuff you've been pushing under the rug that can't come with you into this new timeline. And she also told me that this was a portal for me to step into a deeper level of leadership, self-leadership, but also leadership for others. and that this was going to help kind of expand my capacity as a leader. And so she just kind of mentioned there was some things that Jeff and I needed to talk about and to work through, that Daphne was waiting for us to work through before she could, you know, kind of get to this new timeline. And her, or I can't remember if it was someone in her training group, they told me that this was also going to be unlocking a new spiritual gift for me through this experience. And that it involved timelines, and it involves astral projection, and you know, they weren't super clear on like what exactly it was, but that this experience would equip me with everything I needed. I didn't need to overthink it. And they also told me that my grandfather was coming through for them and saying that I needed to fly like the eagle, which the eagle is the symbol for my grandfather in my life as my guide. And they told me that he would help me soar like the eagle over the land, and it would somehow help bring Daphne back to us. Which, by the way, at the Reiki retreat, one of the women led us through a spirit animal meditation, and I was shown in that meditation an eagle. And I then pulled an oracle card from her animal deck after that was the eagle, and it said soar from a higher perspective. So confirmation was all over the place for this, but I knew that my grandfather was going to help me tap into this gift, or help kind of like fulfill this transformation. Also mentioned to me that they kept seeing a star and 5 points, and they related it to kind of being maybe 5 points in the land that I needed to be aware of where Daphne could be. But they just kept bringing up this star. And so I was like, okay, I'm like noting all of these things down, right? So I didn't know what I really had to do next, except that I know I needed to go inward, and I needed to connect with my team and my higher self and my grandfather. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a meditation. Now, my lake house on the 4th of July is like a non-negotiable for my family to get together. So there are like 40 to 50 of us. There's 13 dogs, and it is chaotic, and I love it, and it's crazy. However, through all of this, it was a lot. It was overstimulating, and there was absolutely no corner, no room that I would be able to go into to meditate without being disturbed. And so I was like, how am I going to do this? And then it dropped in and it hit me. I'm going to go to the spot that my grandfather passed in the woods, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do the meditation there. And that was shown to me in the breath work of me going to that spot. So I did. I went up and I put my headphones on, meditation music, and I just set the intention to connect with my grandfather and be revealed or shown whatever I need to do. Meditation, I was flying on eagle wings with my grandfather. It was beautiful. I was able to kind of see different parts of the land, but then he showed me that the star, the 5 points that they had told me about, were not necessarily specific places on the land. It was people. 5 people, and conversations that needed to happen, things that needed to be resolved, dealt with, released before I could be in this new timeline for Daphne to come home, before I could be in this next evolution of leadership. These 5 things needed to happen. And in that star, Daphne was in the middle, but then the 5 points were me, Jeff, my mom, my sister, and Gus. Gus is my other dog, which I thought was kind of silly. I was like, Gus. And we made up these 5 points of the star. And I didn't know, Jeff and I had already started to have our conversations, so I kind of already had an idea of like, okay, I just need to like go into these conversations open to what would happen and what will come up and surface. And so I did. Me and my sister, wow, we had a lot of time to talk because she would always come with me and look like 10 hours a day in the car. So we had a lot of conversations. We had a lot of healing. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And then had a conversation with my mom, which I'm going to keep all of this, I have the discernment to keep all of this private. And not only did these like conversations need to begin happening, but it was more about like the resentment or the grief or the shame or the guilt that was tied to these different things that I personally knew I needed to release and let go of. Like, it's just time. I've been holding on to so much of this for so long, and it's just time to let it go and to release it with gratitude for what it's shown me and what it's taught me, and to release the shame and fear that were tied to those things. But admittedly, I don't think I had still at this point surrendered fully, because I was still kind of like in this like problem solving mode of like, okay, I need to have this conversation and this conversation, which like looking back was great. Like, however I got to the finish line is how it was meant to be, but I still hadn't fully surrendered to the idea of like what this all meant. The turning point of that though, there was one day, I want to say it was like day six. So we still had a while to go, but it was, I was feeling it deplete. I had no energy. I was starting to feel like nauseous and like I could faint at any minute because I just wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't getting enough sleep. And I remember there was a day after these conversations were beginning to unfold, and it was starting to kind of click, and I was like, okay, I need to do this like the divine feminine way. And it became clear to me like Jeff was really meant to handle the logistics and the boots on the ground physical stuff of like where to put signs, where to go look, like stuff like that. I surrendered that over to him, and I was like, okay, I'm meant to deal with like the energetics. I'm meant to deal with this other bigger spiritual portal stuff that's going on. That is my role in this, and I am okay with that, because up until that point it was really hard for me to kind of give up that physical side of what to do to Jeff. One day that my sister and I asked her if she would take a microdose of mushroom with me, which I had done other days, but this day felt different. Like, I wanted to go out with her because something I didn't share was my sister and I realized, are so aligned in so many things that I hadn't known because we haven't had a relationship or talked for so long. But she is into herbs and spirituality, and I have so much to learn from her, and it was so fun getting to know her better in that side of things. So I had asked her if she would microdose mushrooms with me and go out and like connect with the earth and like try a different approach to this of like finding Daphne by connecting to the trees or whatever. And she agreed. And so we went out, we said a prayer, we took our mushrooms, and we both instantly could feel our hearts opening, to the experience, to each other, to ourselves. It was really cool. We both like kind of felt that about 30 minutes in at the same time. But we went out. Jeff had given us a couple different places he wanted us to check where there were like water sources, and he was like, let's maybe get out of the car and like look a little bit more. And so we ended up in the woods at one point, and I was so connected to the earth. And to be fair, as much as I was very much connected with spirit and earth, I was also physically not okay. And I was starting to get a little delulu. Like, my mind was not in the best place. And so you kind of mix those things and you can kind of get to the spot of like desperate spirituality, if that makes sense. Anyways, it'll make sense when I keep talking. But we're out looking in the woods, walking. I don't know. It was probably like a mile at this point. But I just kept asking, like, do I need to keep going? Should I turn back? I felt so close to Daphne's energy. It felt like she was like almost like right there. And every time I would ask, do I keep going? I would see a mushroom, or I would see a feather or something. And I was like, okay, like, it was crazy how in the moment it was so spot on. I would see dragonflies, which Amy had told me, follow the dragonflies. Dragonflies like water. And I knew like water was like a big theme of all this. So anyways, we followed these dragonflies to this marsh. And at this point, I am exhausted. I'd walked a mile in the woods. It was so hot. It was like 98 degrees. I wasn't feeling great. And my sister kind of went up the road to go look at something else or do something. And she kind of she had my location on her phone. She saw that I was sitting there for a while. So she's like, oh, she's probably like meditating or connecting or whatever. So I'm just going to let her have her minute. But my little minute was, I felt so strongly in the moment, like I had to go into that marsh. I had to get into the water. I literally pulled my pants up because I was wearing leggings. I'm sorry. I pulled my leggings up, kicked my shoes off, put my phone, I left everything on the ground. And I just felt so strongly, especially because I was thinking back to that breath work of how I had to get into that water to have my baptism moment. And I was like, I'm supposed to be in this water. I need to get into this water. And I felt Daphne's energy there. Like I literally in the moment was like, she is in here. And so when I say that I was walking through this marsh, I mean, it wasn't just like walking through water. Like it was bad. And I know this was dangerous and stupid, so you don't need to tell me that because I've already gotten there myself. It's like I'm literally having to like pull on trees and plants to get through. I'm like falling like 3 feet into the mud each step. It is like really excruciating. It is not an easy walk by any means. And I'm getting deeper and deeper into this huge marsh that goes on for miles. And my legs are getting all cut up. The sun is beating down on me. I feel like I'm about to faint, but I just kept feeling like I had to keep going. And at one point I even heard something running through the water, which at the time I really thought it was Daphne. It sounded like the way she hops through water when we go to the swimming, but maybe it was a deer, who knows. And I'm deep in this marsh, so deep. It's been probably half an hour at this point. My sister has no idea where I am. I'm like, okay, I need to go back. This is stupid. I need to go back. I'm literally about to faint. I literally felt like I could die out there, which it made me so sad in the moment because I was like, this is how Daphne feels every day of these 16 days. It was so hot. So I start to go back and I realize quickly that I am so lost in this marsh and I have no idea how to get back and I'm about to faint. And I look up at the sky and I literally had the deepest moment of surrender I have ever had in my life. I look up at the sky and I just say, I surrender this over to you, God. I surrender. Please show me the path forward. I don't know what to do next. I surrender. And at that moment that I was looking up into the sky, I realized that that was my baptism moment of truly surrendering to Christ and to the divine plan. And my body I just felt out all this weight of expectation, of guilt, of shame. I just felt it fall off of my body. And it truly felt like a baptism moment. And I know that that is what was being shown to me in my breath work was this moment. And this moment had to happen. I had to get to this breaking point physically. I had to get to this point where my body was giving up on me because I had tried so hard for so long. I had to get there to have this actual physical, deep, spiritual moment of surrender. And after I said, God, I surrender to you, please show me the way, I look over and I shit you not, there is like a deer path through the marsh where it's kind of like open. And up until this point, I was falling every step of the way in the mud. When I found this deer path, it was like I was able to just walk on the water, walk on whatever the plants were under there, and I walked straight out of the marsh. And it led me to this beautiful oasis of trees. And I remember thinking, like, it felt like a fairy spot. And I was like, God, I hope that Daphne ended up in this area. Like, it felt like this beautiful oasis. And then I saw a abandoned barn up top. And I, still Delulu in the moment was like, oh my gosh, am I being led to Daphne right now? Is she in there? So I walk up there. I'm still like really not feeling good. I look into the abandoned barn and just in the middle of the barn, there is a dog crate, just in the middle of all this other like trash and stuff. But it's the first thing my eyes see. And then I see there's an actual house next to it. And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea where I am. I am miles away from where I started, circle wise, if I tried to walk around the marsh. I didn't have my car keys. I didn't have anything. I didn't have my phone. So I was like, I need to ask for help, which was another big piece of surrender for me, is asking for help. So I had to go up to this house of these strangers looking like a crazy woman. Like literally I had seeds and plants in my hair. My legs were all cut up. I could barely walk. I was about to faint. I was like sobbing and having an anxiety attack at this point. I knock on this door and these, thank God for these two women who admittedly were kind of frightened by me, which I understand completely. I asked for their phone. They reluctantly kind of gave it to me. I called Jeff, who came and got me. I'm just so thankful for that. And I'm thankful for myself for doing that and for having the courage to go out into the water, because to me, that was like an example of divine mother love and like what we are capable and what we can do. Like I was a freaking badass in there moving through that marsh. I will never remember how capable I became through this experience. However, that wasn't the right way for me to do it. To have this transformation was to push and to force. And so I'm so grateful though that I did that, because it was the turning point of this entire experience. Because from that point on, I had truly surrendered to the timeline. I surrendered it up to God, and I just said, I remember this was my exact prayer. I said, God, I surrender this all over to you. Please just use my body as a vessel. Put me at the right place at the right time to find my baby girl. But I leave it up to you. I surrender the how. I surrender the timeline. This was only on like day 6 or 7, so we still had like 10 more days. But I could feel energetically like we were closer. Like that moment had to happen for the circle to complete, for the time portal to complete. I started taking care of myself. I actually had an appetite. I started eating. I remember, if you saw my Instagram story, we went out, we would stop looking for 10 hours a day. Didn't mean we stopped, looking and doing the things we had to do, but we stopped forcing for 10 hours a day and killing ourselves. And instead, in the middle of the day, we would go out, we would take the jet skis, we would jump into the lake, we would reset our nervous systems because we were starting to numb out. So we started to take care of ourselves in ways that we had never done in those first 5 to 6 days. And that was the energy beginning to shift too. After I kind of had that moment, I decided to go and do my meditation and connect with this new gift again. And it was in that meditation that I was actually shown all of the different timelines that existed. It was almost like I saw it as like roots under all the trees of all the different timelines of how Daphne could come home. Her just finding her way back to our lake house. There was her going up to someone's house and them, calling us that she was there. There was us finding her on the road. There was us, we had been using this humane crate trap to try to get her in, knowing now we were just putting it the very wrong places, but that was an option of her going into the crate. There was all these different versions and timelines of ways that she could come back to us. And it showed me that that's why surrender is so important, because there's so many different pathways that things could happen, but they all resulted in her coming back. And I remember in the moment in the meditation, it was like my body was just remembering, and I just started to do energy work on all of the timelines. And I could see myself, kind of shifting things into place. I could see myself sending the right person for her to meet in that timeline that would help her. I could see in the scenario with the crate, me, releasing her fear of the crate and helping her be guided to go into the crate, and that it was an okay, safe place. I was just doing all of this energy work, and my body was literally moving like this, and I'm doing this energy work. And I believe now, I'm still putting this all together, but this is part of this new spiritual gift, is timeline work, Akashic records, maybe energy work on timelines. I don't know. I'm still putting it together, but this was an activation. The way my body was just moving out of memory, I knew what I was doing without knowing what I was doing. And so this was clearly this new spiritual gift that was being unlocked. And I had so much peace after that meditation and that energy work that it was all going to work out. I'm so proud of myself for the surrender after these moments, because I know that it's what led Daphne back to us. So now we're probably on day, 11 or 12, 13? Let's say 13. I think we're on day 13 at this point. And my nails start to break off, and they're starting to hurt because they're breaking off in the middle. I get my nails professionally done with dip technique, and so it's not something I could just take off myself. I would have to go to a nail salon to get my nails done. And so at this point, my nails start breaking, hurting, and I say to Jeff, I'm like, I know this might sound silly or stupid right now, but I need to go get my nails done. So I started to call around, and I'm looking for nail salons. There are not many nail salons in this Wisconsin small town, okay? There's a couple of small towns around us, so I'm calling around, and none of them do dip, the technique that I get done, except for one salon that I talked to. And she was down south about 30 minutes from my lake house. in a town and city that we hadn't even been to yet to knock doors or talk to anyone. And so I remember saying to Jeff, like, oh, I had this feeling of like, this feels divine. This feels meant to be. I was like, because we haven't been here yet. Like, we could go and while we're there, we can put up signs. We can go talk to the sheriff's department there in a new area. However, this was pretty south. We didn't think she would have made it this far at all. We drive down. I'm getting my nails done. And I, of course, am talking to the nail tech about what's happening, how my dog is missing. And of course, she's saying, you know, I'm so sorry. Let me see your picture, you know, just kind of like saying all the right things. And I remember about 10 minutes later, a woman walks in and she sits down at the station next to me. And I wasn't going to say anything to her. I said hi, but I wasn't going to tell her the whole story because I just went through it all. And I was kind of like, okay, let me just enjoy this moment for myself, get my nails done and have a moment to try to pretend and feel normal. And it was in that moment that I said that to myself, that the nail tech leaned over to her and actually asked for me, hey, have you seen any dogs recently running around? She was like, this woman lost her dog. And the woman, I'm still just like sitting there with my nails, just like looking forward. And the woman says, well, yes, actually. There's been a black lab, I think, coming up to my farm every morning and sharing my dog's food with him. She had a farm dog named Duke who lived outside, and she said every day for the last 5 days, this dog with a blue collar was coming up and eating with her dog and hanging out with him, but would never let her get close enough to see her tags. She would always run away. And I literally am sitting there and I'm like, what? A dark dog with a blue collar? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, literally, I could not believe what was happening. I mean, of all the doors we knocked, of all the signs we put up, all the like blood, sweat, and tears we put into talking to people and finding people and letting them know, this woman, we were just in the right place at the right time. And thank God for the nail tech, who was a complete angel sent from God, in my opinion, who orchestrated this conversation. And so, I mean, everything that happened next was beautiful. We put up a camera on her dog's food area so that we could confirm if it was Daphne or not, because I was really like surrendering to the fact that it probably wasn't her, trying not to get my hopes up, trying not to control the situation, because we had gotten a lot of tips in the last 10 days that weren't Daphne, because a lot of people have farm dogs that they just let run around. And so I was trying not to get our hopes up, but we put that camera up and we got a photo of her going to eat, and it was her. Like, it was the moment we actually got to see her was wild, because up until then, it's hard to explain, but like literally we would get a sighting and 5 minutes later we would go to where she was seen, nowhere to be seen. We would check everywhere, and I swear the energy was like we were on different timelines. Like, we could have been in the same place at the same time, we wouldn't have seen each other because we were on different timelines. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about, but I kept calling her a leprechaun because I would call out to her, she wouldn't come. Like, I felt her energy, like she was there, but she couldn't see me. It was so crazy. And so to see her on the camera, it was like this, like, my mind connected the dots. Like, we are now on the same timeline. Like, I can see my baby girl again. And it was just crazy. We went at like 4:30 a.m. It was still dark out, but we wanted to try to get to that area before she would come to eat, because we still hadn't had a chance for her to see us and to see, like, will she come to us if she sees us and knows it's us? Will she come or will she run? And so I sat there in the yard because Duke, who was the farm dog, didn't like me getting into a specific radius, or he would bark and freak out, and that would scare we knew that would scare Daphne. So I just sat in the yard at 4:30 a.m. with a hot dog in my hand, and I saw her come out of the barn. So she had been sleeping in the barn. I saw her come out and to go get some food, and I was pretty far away. I mean, like, I don't know, pretty far. Like, I could barely see her. She was kind of just like a figure. It was kind of dark. And I said, Daphne, Sissy Bissy Bowen, which is what we call her. And she looks up, and I see her like kind of like go like that. And she's like looking at me. And I'm like, hi, sissy. But yet still, when I look back, I was still trying to like control, like, okay, if she sees me, she'll come, which is a normal human thing to think. But she wasn't sure, and she just walked off. She didn't run away. She kind of like trotted off. And I was like, okay, that was me. Like, that was my last effort of like trying to go get her. Like, I needed to let her come. I needed to receive and not force and try to get. And I remember even in that moment, like, it crushed my soul a little bit that she, like, I felt like she heard me and she didn't come. But I surrendered to it, and I said, okay, Jeff, let's put out the crate here. Because we had been using a woman, a professional, like, volunteer who tracks and technically traps lost dogs. So it's a humane trap. It's like big, it's 6 feet long. And basically it just has this trap door so that when they walk in and they step on a certain part, the door closes. And so we've been using that for like the first, 15 days or whatever, but we were just had it in the wrong location. I mean, she was 17 miles from where we were thinking she was in her last sightings. So that crate wasn't doing us any good over there. And so we put the crate, and I remember it was like 4:30 p.m. We put it out. We had to put Duke away so that we could not get him in the crate. And I remember just like, we were sitting, we were 5 minutes nearby. We were just sitting in the car, and I had just released any expectation or attachment to the outcome that this was the night we were going to get her. Because even in my mind, I was like, okay, she might not like the crate. She might be scared of it. Luckily, she actually sleeps in a crate at night, so maybe she'll be okay with it. But there were just all these factors. And I remember just sitting there with Jeff for 4 hours in the car, and we were playing cribbage, we were playing cards. And I just remember feeling so at peace and in true surrender, because I just knew we were going to get her, and just the timeline was just up to her at this point. And then it was about 8:30 p.m. The woman sent us a picture that the crate door was closed and something was in it, but she didn't have any images of like what went in. And so even then I was like, okay, maybe it's a raccoon, maybe it's a rabbit. Like, it's okay. We don't get our hopes up. And we drove up, we stopped the car. I was looking, and it was like a little black thing. I was like, I think it's a raccoon. And we walk up closer, and I see her look up at me with her big, beautiful eyes. And she was just curled up in a small little ball. And I was like, hi, baby. And it was the best, most beautiful moment of Jeff and I realizing that everything we had done over those 16 days was over, and that it worked. So many people throughout those 16 days would ask us, like, when are you going to go home to Colorado? Like, you can't stay. And we're like, of course we're going to stay. We're not going home. Like, we'll go home when we find her. And I just, like, even when we would talk to people and tell them how long it had been and how they knew how hot it was, and so many people would just kind of look at us and almost be like, sorry, I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, it just felt like so many people around us were kind of like giving up hope. And we never gave up hope. And I remember holding Jeff's hand, and we looked at each other, and there was just such beautiful moment of like that hope and that trust and never giving up, like, led us back to our baby. And it just felt like in that moment, I could just feel our love get so much stronger. And it took us a second, though, for our minds to believe that, like, the trauma was over. Like, I mean, Jeff was even like, is that her? I can't tell. Is it her? And I'm like, yeah, look at her collar. It says Daphne. Like, it was just, our minds could not comprehend this baby that we'd been looking for 16 days was sitting right in front of us. It was really, really beautiful. So that is the story of how surrender and trust was the catalyst to bringing our baby home after 16 days on her own in the wilderness. And there are so many more lessons that have come from this. Like, literally, Jeff and I, my sister and I, my mom, like, none of us will be the same. And that's why it's like, literally, we jump timelines. Like, all of this resentment and judgment and fear and grief and sadness and pain that I had been carrying for so long, that I've been trying to actively release, like, through this experience, I literally have just felt melt away from my body, because it's put everything into a new perspective. I'm so grateful for everything that I have now in our family, and I'm so excited to choose Jeff fully and for him to choose me every single day. And it's going to still be work. I'm not saying like everything's just magically better, or, you know, this stuff with my sister, like we still have a lot of conversations to have and a lot of moments, but like I'm so excited and grateful to do that. Like I just have such a new perspective about the problems, and, you know, even things that I felt stuck on like in my business before I went, like I'm now excited to be like have the opportunity to figure it out and to have fun and play. And if there's one thing that Daphne has brought into our lives since the beginning, is play and fun. Like she is so silly and so playful, and she makes our house so playful, and it's just, to not have that energy for 16 days put into perspective how important play and fun and like living your life fully and being present in the moments are. And we will never ever be the same. I will never be the same. Like to learn that lesson of true surrender and to feel that so deeply in my body, I will never ever be the same. It doesn't mean I'm not going to still have to like work on it and actively integrate and actively surrender, but I now know what it truly feels like in my body to surrender and what that will bring me. And I'm just so grateful. And I'm so grateful for you for listening to this whole story and staying this long. I love you so much. I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, what you thought of this, what you learned, if anything came up for you. I want to hear it all. And I can't wait to just like hug you and squeeze you in person, hopefully one day. And I hope that you can feel my heart and know me a little bit better. And I just want to thank you for being open to my story and to me sharing this journey, whether you believe or agree with things that I brought up today. Like I'm just so grateful for you to be of witness to it. And I hope, if anything, it just helps you go back inward and think about these things for yourself. So I love you so much. And wait, should I call in Daphne? Daphne, come here. Sissy. Come here, Sissy. Come here. Come up here. There's like all these lights, so she's like, what's going on? Come up here, baby. Come here. Hi, sweetie. Hi. My little miracle baby. My time traveler. I love you so much. Thank you for everything that you did for our family. I love you. We love you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video.